Under the framework of BDAF, a preparation and tasting local dish workshop was organized, gathering tourists from more than 20 different countries of the world. Residents of an Arabic slum are on a mission to reducing the damage from flooding in their local areas. At least 176 villagers were killed in flooding and landslides brought on by torrential overnight rains in eastern Congo's South Kivu province. Good afternoon, our dear viewers. Welcome to the 1 p.m. news edition with Hazel Ogoigbe, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou. Now to the news in detail, starting from the local scene. The Benin International Dance Festival, BDAF, is a large-scale international event essentially set up to promote Benin as a tourist destination, make it a sought-after destination. Now, it is in this vein that this preparation and tasting local dish workshop was organized, gathering tourists from more than 20 different countries of the world. Now, this is the third edition of this gastronomic event themed cassava, connoting that meals made from cassava is the subject of the gastronomy event. The Benin International Dance Festival, BDAF, is a large-scale international event essentially set up to promote Benin as a tourist destination and make it a sought-after destination. It is in this vein that this preparation and tasting local dishes workshop was organized. Gathering tourists from more than 20 different countries of the world, this third edition of this gastronomic event is themed cassava, connoting that meals made from cassava is the subject of our taste buds. The festival attenders, who came from about 20 countries around the world, enjoy the local cassava-based dishes. For them, it was a success and a winning bet for the organizers, who intend to sell Benin as a destination to dance lovers, especially salsa lovers. There are various activities planned within the framework of the Benin International Dance Festival 2023, which includes tourist outings, initiation workshops in traditional Beninese dance.
So far, so good. I'm enjoying every bit of it. Last night was a very good night. I saw some moves, saw some dancing, and today, this afternoon, we seen the different stuff we can make with cassava, which I already know because I'm from Ghana. So I was just trying to see the difference, but it really looked awesome, and I'm really having a good time. Benin is very good. It's very nice. Actually, it's quite a neat city so far that I've seen. And to be honest, I'm really having a good time.
And I came to the BDAF festival so that I can experience like the culture up here, the food, the dancing, and it's been such a great experience. We had tapioca earlier on, and now we're about to eat some of the delicious food here. So I'm very excited.
There would also be advanced dance courses in Afro-Latino dance, evening dances, live entertainment, orchestras, with performances by renowned artists from here and outside the shores of Benin. The participants are excited to be part of this epoch-making event. Still on the local scene, sports journalists go the extra mile to provide information to fans of various disciplines. Now, on the occasion of International Media Day last week, Golfe TV Africa took a look at the difficulties sports journalists encounter and the prospects for better results in their work.
The aim of sports journalists is to report and inform on the events they witness, while at the same time providing a critical eye. In Benin, all are in agreement on the situation that plagues the sector. The lack of an association or body representing the corporation. Beyond the lack of a representative body for the sports media, Issa Hamadou mentions other problems that plague the system.
Alors, l'autre aspect qu'on pourrait également noté au niveau de la presse sportive, c'est le manque de formation.
The other aspect also noted in the sports media is the lack of training. The The sports media today does not manage the chance of evolution. There's a lot we need to know. There's a lot of new knowledge that is important we grasp. Also, there's a lot of new dynamics at the level of the association we dream of. But without a real grouping, how can we achieve this? So I think that this is one of the key things that obstruct a good evolution of the sports media in Benin. This also includes the lack of training. We never finish learning as long as we need to train. We need to continue to learn. Faced with these different problems, a positive result is urgently needed. It should be noted that the state of the sports journalism in Benin has an impact on the promotion of sports in our country. Each player has a duty to contribute to the building of a sustainable sports media.
Still on the African scene, but crossing over from the local scene, at least 176 villagers were killed in flooding and landslides brought on by torrential overnight rains in eastern Congo's South Kivu province, a local official stated last Friday. At least 176 villagers were killed in flooding and landslides brought on by torrential overnight rains in eastern Congo's South Kivu province, a local official stated on Friday. Thomas Bakenga, a regional government official, gave the estimates after overseeing recovery efforts. He described the scale of destruction as enormous beyond words. Whole houses were carried away. He said bodies were still being collected from the shores of nearby Lake Kivu and called for immediate assistance. Two rivers broke their banks after the heavy rains which began on Thursday evening, and there have been multiple landslides with scores of homes destroyed, according to Delphine Bidimbi, a community leader in the region. As bodies were pulled from the mud, some residents estimated that more than 3/4 of homes in the village of Inyambukumbi were carried away by the floods, along with school buildings and a healthcare. Rescuers work to find and save anyone who may be trapped under the debris from their destroyed homes. In a statement published on Friday, the provincial government of South Kivu offered its sympathies to the families affected and said it was sending groups of officials to the area. Heavy rains have brought misery to thousands in East Africa, with parts of Uganda and Kenya also seeing heavy rainfalls leading to destructions of lives and properties. Flooding and landslide in Rwanda with borders Congo left 129 people dead earlier last week. A young entrepreneur in the Democratic Republic of Congo has opened up a coffee factory that is helping revive the coffee industry in Kinshasa, the capital of the Central African nation.
The aroma of freshly ground coffee wafts through the air in the Kingabo neighborhood of Kinshasa. Staff at the Café La Quinoa's factory are busy processing it. As such is the impact of the young entrepreneur, Tisia Mukuna. Her company is not just providing coffee, it is providing jobs to many Congolese citizens.
Convinced that it is an economic actor that can change Africa, that can change Congo. We rely a lot on the government, on politics, whereas we can rely on the economic actors that create jobs.
Her company recently introduced mobile coffee carts to target people on the move. Tisia Mukuna set up her business in 2022 after completing her studies in France. She's introduced mobile coffee carts to target low-income earners in the city where many coffee shops are patronized by the well-to-do.
Before I started selling coffee at Café La Quinoa's, I used to spend the whole day at home because I had no job. But nowadays, I am always busy selling coffee. I wake up very early every morning to serve my customers.
The La Quinoa's coffee is grown on a 20-hectare farm on the outskirts of Kinshasa. A lot of the coffee grown in the DRC is exported abroad in raw form and finds its way back into the country as a processed product. But the Café La Quinoa's farm is seeking to change that. In the 1980s, the Democratic Republic of Congo was one of Africa's leading coffee exporters. Most of the coffee grown in the country that was known as Zaire came from the eastern provinces of North Kivu and South Kivu. But an armed conflict that has gone on for nearly 3 decades has ravaged the country's agricultural potential in those regions.
Every year we try to find a new strategy to promote the coffee. For example, a few days ago I was in China to promote the coffee. I'm going again in few months. I'm traveling to Brazzaville. We try to sell the coffee and sell the brands.
Entrepreneurs like TCM Mukuna are now trying to revive the DRC's coffee sector by growing the Robusta and Arabica varieties. With many local and international awards, Mukuna and her team see they have been inspired to keep improving their coffee brand one cup at a time.
Such an inspiring story. Truly, agriculture is the bedrock of development in any country. Away from that, crossing over to another inspiring story in Kenya. Now, residents of a Nairobi slum called Kibera are on a mission to reducing the damage from flooding in their areas. Now, volunteers work together to clear debris and waste that is blocking the waterways and drainage at an informal settlement called Kibera. Residents of a Nairobi slum are on a mission to reducing the damage from flooding in their area. Volunteers work together to clear debris and waste that is blocking the waterways and drainage at an informal settlement. Armed with shovels, brushes and rakes, the volunteers are working with Weather Mntani, a group set up to help improve life for the people living there. A lack of proper working drainage systems means flooding is likely when it rains, due to it being clogged with rubbish such as plastics, clothing, and sludge. The Kenyan Meteorological Department has been training young people from informal settlements to interpret weather forecasts. Volunteers at Weather Mntani and Ntienu explains it is a race against the clock to clear as much rubbish as possible ahead of the rains. She received the weather forecast message from Weather Mntani, which translates as village weather, predicting rain in the coming weeks. It prompted her to band together with volunteers to clean up around Kibera, one of the largest slums in Africa with an estimated population of 250,000 inhabitants. Every week, the volunteers receive weather forecasts, seasonal outlooks, and warnings from KMD, which they translate into the local language. The translation is then sent to other volunteers through WhatsApp or SMS, which is then sent widely to residents. Community leaders are trained to interpret the weather forecast when they translate into Swahili as well as the local dialect. Weather Mntani started as a pilot project in 2019 under Developing Risk Awareness Through Joint Action, run by the Weather and Climate Innovation Services for Africa program under the United Kingdom's Met Office and the Department of International Development.
Weather Mntani has sent us a message warning us that it might rain and that we should be ready. We are not sure that it will rain, but we must inform our neighborhoods to take rightful measures. We warn children not to play near rivers. We look out for faulty underground electrical wires and unclogged water drains. If the rains come, we will not be caught off guard. That is how we stay ready.
After getting the messages from the Kenya Meteorological Department, we translate it into a simple message that people can easily understand. We do it with SMS or WhatsApp. Then after we send, it usually has it has advice. So the advice is the one which people use in terms of extreme heat and also flooding. And through that, we also do cleanups before the long rains.
The project was so successful that after the pilot project ended, the KMD continues to send weather forecasts to Weather Mntani leaders. Previous flash flooding has been deadly and caused destruction to many homes in Kenyan slums. Away from Kenya, this is another inspiring story. Now, Ayira's Neuro Soul Cafe is an establishment that aims to be a welcoming space for everyone, including guests who have cognitive disabilities. Now, the owner and founder is called Diana Ayo, and she established the business after her young daughter was diagnosed with a neurodivergent condition. More information in this inspiring report.
The doors are open, and 18-year-old Natasha Mwangi is welcoming guests into Ayira's Neuro Soul Cafe. The establishment aims to be a welcoming space for everyone, including guests who have cognitive disabilities. It is also a source of employment for young people like Mwangi, who was born with cerebral palsy. Job opportunities are scarce for young people with neurological disorders such as autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, as well as cerebral palsy. Owner and founder Diana Ayu established the business after her young daughter was diagnosed with a neurodivergent condition. Ayu is a mechanical engineer, but her experiences prompted her to become a qualified behavior analyst.
The inspiration behind starting Aira's Neurosoul Cafe, Aira is named after my 6-year-old daughter called Aira. She has a very unique condition called Primrose syndrome together with autism. As a mother, and in this part of the world, I know that the neurodivergent are stigmatized and they're not really taken care of. I wanted to show the world that even them, they can be given a chance in the society and contribute.
Awareness of such conditions is being successfully raised by the cafe and its workers.
What I've noticed that when people come to the restaurant and you talk to them and explain to them what we do and who our people are, someone will always say, I have a brother, I had a sister, I have a cousin, I have a niece, I have a neighbor. So this means that it touches people. It's just that the awareness has not been created so much out there for people to be able to know and accept and, just understand the different conditions.
We don't get job easily because it is difficult, because you find like us, we are not able to maybe to communicate better than the rest or write like others. So it's a bit challenging because you find many institutions, they don't take people with intellectual disability.
The venue is slowly gaining popularity with people who come from all over the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Here, people with all types of neurological problems can meet and discuss their lives with others. Family members too can discuss their experiences with other relatives.
Oftentimes people stigmatize them and do not want to offer them, jobs and the support they require to be able to stay in job. And so they continue, to remain poor and to suffer. And that also leads to development of several other mental conditions, such as low self-esteem, depression, and also suicidal ideation.
The cafe also hosts workshops focused on neurodiverse topics. Ayi says many parents come looking for job opportunities, but she's aware her resources can stretch to help everyone.
Such an inspiring story. Now crossing over to political relationship. Now, Rwandan President Paul Kagame met the United Kingdom's Prime Minister Sunak in London last Thursday. He met him before the coronation of King Charles III that took place on Saturday. Now, the meeting is part of a one-on-one discussion the British Prime Minister is holding with world leaders as they arrived in London to take part of the royal ceremony.
Rwandan President Paul Kagame met the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in London on Thursday ahead of the coronation of King Charles III. The meeting is part of one-to-one discussions the British Prime Minister is holding with world leaders as they arrive in London to take part of the royal ceremony. The UK has agreed a multi-million-pound partnership with Rwanda designed to tackle the number of small boats of migrants coming to Britain via unauthorized routes. The deal, worth £140 million, will allow the UK to send to Rwanda anyone who enters the country unlawfully. Sunak added that the United Kingdom and Rwanda are leading the way on the global migration issue. The British Prime Minister also praised the role of the Rwandan president as chair-in-office of the Commonwealth over the past year, saying he had led the way on issues such as trade and sustainability. The plan to send migrants to the East African nation was ruled lawful by High Court judges, but so far been stalled by legal action and no flights have taken off.
Now, this happened before the coronation of the king. Some South Africans are calling for Britain to return the world's largest diamond, known as the Star of Africa, which is set in the royal scepter that King Charles III holds at his coronation on Saturday. Now, the diamond, which weighs 530 carats, was weighed and discovered in South Africa in 1905 and presented to the British monarchy by the colonial government in the country, which was then under British rule.
Well, some South Africans are calling for Britain to return the world's largest diamond, known as the Star of Africa, which is set in the royal scepter that King Charles III will hold at his coronation on Saturday. The diamond, which weighs 530 carats, was discovered in South Africa in 1905 and presented to the British monarchy by the colonial government in the country, which was then under British rule. Now, amid a global conversation about returning artwork and artifacts that were pillaged during colonial times, some South Africans are calling for the diamonds to be brought back, while others say they don't feel strongly about it. Officially known as Cullinan 1, the diamond in the scepter was cut from the Cullinan diamond, a 3,100 carat stone that was mined near Pretoria.
It is an honor to have the South African diamond in and under the control of the British monarchy. It gets a lot of emphasis on it, and it promotes South Africa as a destination for its, wealth and its knowledge for mining South African diamonds.
To King Charles, I think it would be right for him to ascend his throne, ensuring that he's showing a sign of hope to us Africans, those who were previously colonized not by him directly, but by his predecessors. And I think if he wants to be a recognized monarchy, a respected monarchy by the African people, it would be wise of him to return what was taken from us without our consent.
We want the crown to be brought back to South Africa where it belongs. At least it will restore the dignity of the African child. At least it will restore the self-respect of the African child. So it's a touchy subject to me.
I don't think it matters anymore. Things have changed. We're evolving. What mattered for them in the olden days about being superior above all, based on being Britain and whatnot, it doesn't matter to us anymore.
Away from that, crossing over to Kenya. Now, two pastors based in coastal Kenya have appeared on the court about the death of at least 110 of their congregants, many of whom were believed to have starved to death. Now, self-proclaimed Pastor Nthenga Mackenzie, who set up the Good News International Church in 2003, is accused of inciting followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. Two pastors based in coastal Kenya have appeared in court over the death of at least 110 of their congregants, many of whom are believed to have starved to death. Self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Nthenga Mackenzie, who set up the Good News International Church in 2003, is accused of inciting followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. He appeared in the dock in Malindi. He will face terrorism charges over the death of more than 100 people found buried in what has been dubbed the Shakahola Forest Massacre, prosecutors stated. The small courtroom was packed to relatives of victims as Mackenzie, dressed in a pink and black jacket and brown trousers, was brought in by about half a dozen police officers along with 8 other defendants. After a brief hearing, the case was moved to the High Court in Kenya's second largest city of Mombasa, where the suspects will face terrorism charges, prosecutor Vivian Mkambanga. There is a court in Mombasa that is gazetted to handle cases under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Kambanga told the magistrate during the hearing in Malindi, asking for the case to be moved to the High Court. Sadly, more than 100 bodies have been exhumed from dozens of mass graves on his property within Kilifi County. Children are believed to be among the dead, but it is unclear how many, as some of the bodies are in poor condition. Autopsies on 40 of the bodies found on Mackenzie's property revealed that the causes of death range from starvation to strangulation and suffocation. The higher court has authorized Mackenzie's detention until Friday, when an application to hold him for a further 30 days pending terrorism investigations will be heard. His wife, Rhoda Mawo, was arrested on Monday night from a hideout in the coastal town of Mtwapa after weeks on the run. It should be noted that Mackenzie had been charged in 2017 over the death of children at his church. In 2019, he closed the church and moved to a ranch in a forested area of Kilifi County, where hundreds of families built houses. One of his followers told the Associated Press that it was at this time that the plan to starve till death in order to meet Jesus was hatched, and his followers started dying. Human rights groups had been sounding the alarm for months until April, when police began investigating and mass graves were discovered at the ranch. Currently, police are conducting search and rescue missions on the 800 acres property and at an even bigger ranch nearby. So far, 48 people have been rescued alive and 24 arrested, according to Coastal Regional Commissioner Rhoda Oyancha. In another development, Pastor Ezekiel Odero, whose church is in the same county as Mackenzie, has also appeared in court. Now, he will remain in custody for a further 2 days as investigations continue. Odero was arrested last week in connection to the death of dozens of his congregants at his mega church, which draws thousands of people from across the country. He's also been investigated for his links to Mackenzie. Prosecutors have linked Odero and Mackenzie, saying in court documents that they share a history of business investments, including a television station used to pass radicalized messages to followers. After Mackenzie closed his church in 2019, Odero bought a television channel from him. In his filing to court, Odero said he wanted to strongly disassociate himself from Mackenzie and disagreed with his teachings. His followers trooped in large numbers outside the court on Tuesday, praying for his release. And our dear viewers, this is where we conclude today's news edition, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa with Hazel Ugoigbe. Join me by 6 p.m. for Vocal Point. Thanks for tuning in.